Toasty Cakes, welcome to the American Glutton Podcast.
How you doing, brother? I love you.
I'm good. I love you too. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but I think that it's going to be interesting no matter what.
Let's get into it. Let's just fucking dive into it.
Let's do it.
A couple weeks ago, you made a post on Instagram, and it was a joke. And then I started texting you, and you said you'd gotten a lot of texts from other people. And let's just get into that. Let's dive in there.
Okay.
Let's dive right in. What are your feelings? Why'd you make the joke? What was the joke? The joke was kind of a booby trap for people. You caught them, but then it was like hurtful.
Yeah, man. I mean, as a big guy, sometimes you like to do a little self-harm. Sometimes we do it with food. Sometimes we do it with words. And in this case, I did something pretty shitty, man. I used my friends to make myself feel bad. And it's one of those things, like I was a little too smart for my own good. So I took a picture of a box of Ozempic because it's LA and literally everybody in Los Angeles is on Ozempic. I think you know that. I think you know everyone in the business is. And so I took a picture, I posted on my close friends, and I got all kinds of friends here. I got people in real estate, people in the business, people in fashion. And I said, yo guys, so what should I do here? Should I better living through chemistry or should I do it the old fashioned way? A little poll, and, about 150 people, my close friends, 100% of them, every single one of them voted better living through chemistry. They 100% of my friends said, do this thing. And the trap I set for them was, I just asked 150 of my closest, deepest friends in the world to tell me that they didn't like me the way that I am and that they wanted me to be different. And to a person, 150 of those people, 100% would say, no, dude, we love you. We're concerned about you. We just want you to be happy. We just want you to be healthy, which is like, again, like fucking that concern thing. That shit's like, everyone listening to this probably has some experience with that, where you're like, I don't want your fucking concern. I don't want your help. I'm not your victim. I know why they did it. I knew they were going to answer the way they did, but I set a trap for them anyways. And then I had to deal with the consequences of that. And the two parts of that are, one, trying to understand why I'm so against this thing, right? Because, here I am. I could probably use it. I've had a lifelong struggle with this thing, and I need something to change. The other is, why did they say it? Well, some of them are concerned, of course. Some of them love me. Some of them want me to be different, better, happy, healthy. They want me to go skydiving with them. I don't know. But I also know that a lot of them are probably trying to absolve themselves of their own sin, man, because every single person in real estate told me their whole office is on it, because if you're selling $10 million houses in LA, you better look good. And every single person in fashion, on both sides, if you're a stylist, if you're a hair and makeup, if you're a photographer, all these people say, we've got to look good too, which that's no surprise to me. I've been in this business for a minute. Everyone in the industry is like, hey man, that gives you diarrhea. And so like, we're on the red carpet trying to like scoot past just in case. And I'm laughing, but it's a lot of people telling me that they're going with that. And then me trying to understand what that means to me, because I won't.
Yeah. I had these exact, I don't think I ever, I mean, I definitely laid traps for people. Social media didn't really exist.
Right.
For me 20 years ago. It was non-existent. So I couldn't do it but I could do it like in a setting. And I know the masochistic urge to want to have your feelings hurt, or to be expecting that, or to say something with that. Like, I completely get that. But my mind just goes to, like, when I think back, I wanted people to accept me for who I was, but I was not accepting myself for who I was. There was no, like, if I think, like, today, I still have issues with myself all the time, every day. And the first person I try to communicate with that about is myself, and going like, stop doing that. Like self-love is real. But that's my question to you. Like, you have said in what you just said, like you want change.
Sure. And, you know, again, did I set a trap for them or did I set a trap for myself because I was telling myself something I needed to hear? I was telling myself, you know, it was like I called the intervention on myself and I sat everyone I know around in a circle and trapped myself in that room to say, dude, when are you going to fucking fix this problem, dude? Like, how many decades are going to go by? Because as you found your way around it. But I was thinking about this earlier today. I was thinking about what we're going to talk about, what we're going to get into. And I was like, you know, do we do the whole history thing? And I remember being in middle school and being big and saying, man, this summer, I'm going to fix this. This is the summer. I'm going to go, I'm going to come back. I'm going to go to 8th grade. I'm going to be skinny. And then, you know, between 8th grade and high school, well, new class, new high school, I'm going to be skinny. 1, 2, 3, 4 years. Okay, man, going off to college. Time to change. And, you know, I couldn't do it back then and I haven't done it yet. And so what's the holdup? And I talked to, you know, one of my friends who responded to it, was pretty mad about it, is a guy you and I know, Mike. And he's, you know, I love Mike. Mike is a problem solver and Mike, you know, knows his way around steps. And so he's just like, let's get this fucking thing done. He's like, you know, your life is going to change when you hit your bottom. So I guess hurry up and hit your fucking bottom, dude. And I keep asking myself, what's the bottom? Like, where does this end for me? When do I finally decide that my life has to be different? And, you know, that's the bigger question. So yeah, it doesn't matter how many people in the world love me, because if I don't love myself, then how could I possibly believe that they do?
Yeah. I think that's like that's one of the keys. And the other thing that I think about is like, what are, like, when you think about change, because I used to wake up and have that panicked thing of like, that's it, I'm doing it. And that would be it. It would be like, just that thought is enough. And that's going to carry me. And, you know, almost like when you think about social justice warriors who I find, even if they're fighting for a cause that I empathize with, I find them to be nauseating a lot of the time, because just a chant is like the extent of the work they're going to do. And it's like, well, if you have this broken system, just screaming that people need to change, that's not actually proactively doing anything. Telling me I need to change in a way that so you feel better. But I think that idea of change is a similar thing, because we can go, I decided to change and that's it. That is enough for me, but it isn't really enough. And I wonder if, when you think about all the reasons that are underlying that, are they your reasons? Are they reasons like, you know, for a girl, for more acceptance, for acceptance in fashion? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this fucking guy who's doing Ozempic so he can sell a $10 million house, I would be willing to bet he probably needed to lose 5 pounds. Like, that's not, that's not right. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what you and I have experienced started when we were little kids and was painful almost daily for my whole life.
When you're our size, I mean, that's the thing is, you know, like I started listening to the Will Friedle episode before this, and I was like, I'm going to cut it off because I don't want to, you know, be any different. But there's a, you know, with all respect to everyone and how they feel, there's a difference between feeling fat and being fat. You know, like I have people all day long, and I work in fashion, I work in photography and in the business, and like, oh my God, I feel fat too. It's like, babe, you're 106 pounds. Like, I don't fit on a fucking airplane. So like, I'm not, you know, saying get off my levels, but I am saying there's a difference between you feeling like you could lose a couple pounds and me every minute of every day. This is something, you know, your listeners know. When you wake up, you are reminded, the first thought out of your mind is, I probably wasn't breathing well when I was sleeping because I'm fat. And then you get up and it hurts because you're fat. And you go and you look for a chair, and you have to look for the right chair because you're fat. And you're going to go to a restaurant and you have to say, I wonder if those patio chairs fit, you know? And you have a friend who has a fucking Mazda Miata, and you're like, well, I guess I'm driving. Like, that's for real. It's funny, but it's for real. And so when every minute of every hour of every day is this thing, then those platitudes, like everything everyone wants to say to you, oh man, just flip the script and you can do it. Mind over matter. It's like, well, mind over matter, sure. But like, we need infrastructure. So like the thing that, you have a lifelong plan, and what I need to get to is a lifelong plan, but you need to build scaffolding. You need to build infrastructure around it, because if you're changing your habits because of something in your life, because something new came along, because you've got something to do, that's great for, like, again, the average person. If you need to lose 5-10 pounds, that's great. But like the where you used to be and where I am, and this is something that I try to tell people, and of course they can't understand, and I don't blame them for not understanding because they don't know this lived experience. But like, I was talking to a friend yesterday. I was like, I can lose 100 pounds and you'll barely notice. Oh, no. Of course. I'm like, no, because I have lost 100 pounds and you barely noticed. Like, I can lose 200 pounds and I'm still going to be fat. So that's one of those things where it's like, oh man, like I can run a marathon, but like run 10 marathons now, run 50 marathons. And then after 50 marathons, maybe you'll be rewarded. And so like all of that reward, that short-term reward that so many people can see and feel, oh man, this suit fits better, or like I finally got into my bikini for the summer, or whatever, like those things don't really apply to us. And so you have to be so dedicated to it. And the other thing that like I think you're really good at and I'm really good at is this white knuckle thing, where it's like, bro, I am the most stubborn person in the fucking world. I know you are too. And you've done every diet. I haven't really, done all of them, but I will say, oh man, I'll go do this, and for 3 months I'll do something. I lost 93 pounds in 3 months once, and it was rad. And then COVID hit, and here we are. Like I can do the short-term thing, but recreating a life that is counter to everything you've ever lived is the thing that we have to do. And again, it just goes back to like every decision you make. Did you go to sleep at the right time last night? Do you have meal plans for tomorrow? What happens in 10 weeks? What happens when that girl you're in love with breaks your heart and you stop doing it for her? What happens when you lose your job and you're depressed? Without like plans for all those things, none of it works.
And by the way, even with plans for all of those things, the plans are going to go out the window when real life slaps you in the face. That's going to happen. The plans, you're going to have a plan, and then the plan is not going to be realistic, and you're going to have to come up with a new plan, and then that's going to fail. And no, I completely agree with you. I think that what you're saying is 100% accurate. I also think that looked at like standing at the bottom of the mountain going like, I have to get to the top of Mount Everest. Like, why even fucking bother? Like, it's too much.
Yeah,
and
you'll lose 30 pounds and you're like, dude, I just lost 30 pounds. Oh, fuck it, dude. Whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
It's devastating. There's so much there, Stephen, where like, oh man, fuck. Is there any part of it where you want to just start small and not make some giant radical change and not think about the rest of your life? Like I even thinking about rehab, right? Like there's versions of addiction where if you just stop everything cold turkey, you die. Sure. And you have to do like a medical detox, right? If you're taking enough of the right kind of pills, or you're like a real alcoholic where you're drinking nonstop every day, if you just stop, you can have seizures and go into cardiac arrest. And there is a version of like, we have to get ourselves to a place where we can even start thinking about it, because even the way you're framing it, I can't think about it that day. But no, it's true. I built a fucking structure around my life that insulates me from every fucking distraction that would otherwise have me eating my way into comfort. And when you talk about recreating your life, there's this other part where the only part of you, right? Because there is a part of you that hates yourself, that's mean to yourself.
The whole part, trust me.
But the part of you that is safe and protects you is the same part.
Right.
And that's the part you got to get rid of. Like the one thing that's going to empathize with you and go like, we know how to give you comfort. That's kind of the part you have to kill, which is fucking scary.
I mean, yeah, there's so many things on that. Like the first is that like the small things, you know, because we both have a lot of friends in the program and recovery, and I'm not going to say they have it easy, but like, you just don't do this. You know, you right. Don't do this. I can't not eat. So you have to do a different plan. You have to work your life around it, because socially it's probably unacceptable to like sit down at a restaurant at 3 p.m. and like start gagging lines, but you are expected to go out to dinner. You are expected to be with friends, be social, and you have to eat by yourself either way. But the bigger problem is that hurry up and wait thing, where it's like, instead of just like, hey man, we got to walk to Egypt, let's fucking start walking to Egypt. But right now, instead, we're sitting in the Home Depot parking lot trying to figure out, well, what's the best way? Maybe we should take an airplane. Maybe we should get a car. Maybe we should. And it's like, no, dude, the only fucking way is to put your shoes on and start walking your ass west. And that's hard when you're this size, again, because it's like, well, I didn't do it in 6th grade and I didn't do it in 8th grade and I didn't do it and I didn't. And so it's like, well, I got 15, 20 plus years of not doing it. So what's my fucking rush today? Because if I don't start today, then tomorrow I'm going to be talking about today. And that's the problem. But then, you know, that insulating thing you're talking about, of course, like there's kind of a Buddhist thing. Every single person in this world has 73 problems. You've got 73 problems. Your wife, your kid, my best friend, you know, my cat, they all got 73 problems. But I have one problem. This is my one problem. So if you say, hey man, you know, how's your job going? How's your love life? How's your this? How's your car? How's your finance? None of that matters, because I can focus on one problem, and we are very intimate. Me and this fucking problem, we know each other, you know what I'm saying? And it's, you know, people always talk about pushing people away. And like, I've been having a lot of conversations recently about like, Toasty, you're pushing me away. Why do you push me away? It's like, this is a physical manifestation of me saying, this says, get the fuck out. You know, this says not welcome. That's a line from a movie.
Yeah.
That, you know, yes. So it's, you know, it's a lot, man. And you do have to put carrots out in front of you, and you do have to like jump from thing to thing. And like, you do have to decide that when the shit hits the fan, when things go sideways, my plan is going to succeed through the battle, as opposed to my plan is going to succeed in the war room, you know?
So yes, I totally know. And then that brings us almost full circle to the new miracle drug, where all of that stuff, listen, I'm not like a super advocate for this thing. I'm not like, you know, like I don't think the people who are taking it to lose 5 pounds should be taking it. Like, I think that's pretty dumb, personally.
I think they're going to have some buyer's remorse for that too, when they realize it wasn't the miracle they thought it was. But that's, you know,
you take it, you lose 5 pounds, and maybe you gain back 6. So you take it again, you lose 6 pounds, maybe you gain back 8. Like, I don't know, but that seems likely. If you couldn't figure out losing 5 pounds, how are you going to figure out keeping 5 pounds off? For me, it's the same thing. But those people are not dealing with one problem. That guy isn't waking up every day thinking, I didn't sleep well because there's so much weight pushing down on my chest, right? Like, that's not his concern. And I completely understand when you say you have one problem, and then you go, I have work, how's love life, how's this, that. All of those are viewed through the lens of this problem. This
one
problem,
tiny aperture, yeah.
Yeah. And so I get that. Like, this thing that you joked about and that all your friends said, yes, do it. It is kind of the thing that goes like, you can do this and have this without building the scaffolding now. And so then I say, what is the hesitancy? And I know you want to white knuckle shit. Like, I know you kind of like that, but like, how are you rationalizing this?
I mean, I've been stubborn my whole life. You get that. Like, and there is, pride is the wrong word, but there is a certain, I guess, self-understanding, because I know, you know, like I said, I did that It was the Penn Jillette thing. I don't know if you remember that a couple of years ago, but
with the
that's
potatoes.
what I did right before the potato thing that I did right before COVID, and like lost 93 pounds in 3 months. It was crazy. I did it with my brother. We both agreed to do it, and it was great. But if I start, jabbing myself with this thing and I lose a bunch of weight, then what? Because jabbing myself with this thing doesn't change my life. It doesn't change my habits. It doesn't change my behavior. Do I stand up easier? Yeah. Do I go to sleep easier? Sure. Can I go up running a little easier? Yes. So maybe it's the Kickstarter, and maybe that's the reason to do it. But until I have that answer, the way that my brain works is like, I don't want to fuck with it until I decide that I'm ready. And,
I hear you, but for me, and again, I can't assume whatever in your mind is the thing you want to achieve, that's valid for you. Like, I can't say what you should want to achieve or the reasons behind it, but everything you just listed, if I try to strip away, because I had people wanting me to lose weight my whole life, and that didn't work. That wasn't a good impetus for me to start losing weight. Ever once, somebody pleading with me, we're worried about you. It's devastating. I can't imagine this world without you, and you're unhealthy. And for me, hearing that was like tore me apart.
What I hear is this, by the way,
Yeah, and it doesn't get me to do it. Right. It's just uncomfortable. So when I go like, what is a reason that I want? And I go like, fuck, man, I don't like having knee pain or feet pain. And I got to be honest with you, Toasty, I still have feet and knee pain. Like it's not, it doesn't, like we've put some use on these guys.
Put some fucking miles on these tires, dog. And
yeah, I mean, it doesn't just go away. I look at people who are walking around all day and not acting like their feet hurt. And I'm like, how the fuck? That guy's as big as I am. What the fuck is happening here? And then I have to realize, but he wasn't 500 pounds for 30 years and I was, and that's the difference.
Yeah. I mean, there's that Louis C.K. joke. It's like, you go to the doctor one day and you say, hey, doc, my knee hurts. He's like, yep. It's like, well, am I going to get better? Nope. Well, it's not going to get worse though. Yep. It's like, so part of me says maybe I should start dealing with the fact that, and then the other part is I almost died 20 times before I was 25, man. Like I put some miles on my life. I did some crazy shit, that too. And I kind of didn't expect, it's like a car that you treat like shit because you're like, I'm driving this thing off the fucking road. I'm going Thelma and Louise. And then one day it's like, oh no, well, I just have a car now. And I beat the shit out of it. And now I'm stuck with it. And my body is like that car. And so like when coming to terms with the fact that like I might be around for a little longer, which everyone in my life wants, which is bless their hearts and all, but like that's something to confront also because there, you lose all that, the romance of it and the blah, blah, blah bullshit that we tell ourselves and like that weird mythology that we tell ourselves about.
We're not teenage punk rockers anymore.
We're not, dude, we're not. I was in a mosh pit at a fucking Nine Inch Nails concert recently. I lost a shoe. And I was like, I do not belong here. I'm going to keep coming back, but I do not belong here.
Yeah. The last time, by the way, the kids are doing other stuff. They're doing karate now. And I see it and I don't understand. I'm like, no, just kind of bump into each other, but stop trying to punch me.
Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, all these kids are like 6 years old doing Krav Maga and shit now. And like, they're, I don't know, different world.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's not us. And I completely understand. Like, I think when we were kids, it was kind of punk rock. It was like we were the odd man out. We're not even the odd man out anymore. The rest of America joined us,
I mean, they did, I think they came a little late. It's like me sitting here telling you I like the Fugees before they were cool, but right. We have a different perspective on it, and that's, something we talked about recently personally, but it's interesting to watch the world kind of like come meet us in a bunch of ways because they all think they're punk rock now. And we had punk rock with like friction. Like we did it when it was fucking transgressive and subversive. And now it's like, it's just euphoria, bro. It's just like, it's what they're trying to sell you. But we were fat before it was cool. Like when we were younger, America wasn't fat and now it is. And that's crazy,
You could not, when we were kids, there was no Target. Target did not sell triple XL shirts. They just didn't. You had to go to a special store that was like the big and tall guy store.
You don't know this, but the first time I didn't meet you, you're the first celebrity I ever saw when I was in Los Angeles. And it was because my mom came, I went to USC and my mom came to visit and I needed clothes. And we went to Rochester Big and Tall.
Yes.
On Wilshire. And I fucking was walking around. I'm like, well, there he. But it's almost like seeing somebody in like the nudie section in the back of the VHS. Like, It was rad. I'm like, dude, that's that fucking dude. He's rad, but like, we don't need to see each other.
We can't say hi.
Can't make eye contact. No.
Yeah. No, that place. I remember that place, and it was very much like get in, get out. And I think that today has had an effect on me of like, that's just how I was raised. I was embarrassed to go into stores. And part of me, like, my wife will go shopping. For her, shopping is just like walking around looking at shit.
People love shopping, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's a painful experience to me. I'm like, if I need a pair of pants, I have an idea of what they look like in my head. And I walk in, if I haven't already called or ordered them online now, and I walk in and I say, do you have this size? And if they say no, I leave. I'm out of there. There's no more
crazy.
fucking.
I mean, now there's all the online stuff too, but like, back in that day, there was the store in LA that like we both had to go to because it was the one, right? But you talk to people, it's such a cliche. People like to go to Rodeo. People love, we're going to go shopping for the day. And it's kind of a girl thing, but dudes are all Metro now too. So when I was saying earlier, like you wake up and you think about being fat, when you look at a chair, like walking into the clothing store, bro, you're on the far side of it, which I've been on the far side of it, where you go to the big guy store and you're pushing the big sizes at the big guy store. Yes. And then you're just like, where do I go? Like, do I go get a fucking burlap sack? Do I get a muumuu? Like, what? And it's funny, except for it's not funny because
it's happening.
When you go to pull those pants on and they, don't quite make it, it's the fucking hardest feeling in the world. And then the other side of it is like when I was happy for a while, when I was like not all fucking depressed and like had my shit in order and had some structure in my life, I was on the other side where I was too small for Rochester. I remember, it's basically a Rodeo Drive, like Beverly Hills for anyone out there. And I walked out of Rochester and walked around the corner of the little COS store and the Ralph Lauren store. And I fucking put on like normal XL clothes and it was the best day of my life. And then, things change. So
yeah, no, I have so many, Stephen, I have so many versions of suits in my closet where I have to like try it on now to go like, does this fit? What era is this from? And for some reason, because I still am not totally convinced I'm not going to gain weight again, I won't throw away the big ones.
Well, I'm a hoarder too. So yeah, I got the pants. I got the whole fucking, like one of those big Home Depot Tupperwares of different Levi's just in case.
Just in case.
Right.
Just in case. And I have even smaller suits that when I got really actually thin.
The aspirational clothes will fuck you up.
Yeah. Yeah. Which every now and again, I'm like, I'm going to try that on. It still don't fit. It's still too big for it. Yeah. That's all bringing back a lot of memories. I remember trying to duck into that store, trying to avoid paparazzi one time. That store is it's the spot. It's the only spot for guys like us.
And then it closed, and so it's like, I guess
it's closed.
Yeah, it closed during pandemic. But back to go online, I guess, go on Amazon or something. But it's it's funny because I have those fond memories, and I remember walking around saying like, one day I won't come here anymore. And so obviously I was 18 the first time when I saw you because I went to school, and going in there when I was like 28, I'm like. And there was the old, I don't know if you remember the old Jamaican dude who worked there. He was like the manager or something. I'm like, this guy is like one of the longest, the oldest friends in LA because I've been coming in here for a decade. Yeah. And I better not be fucking coming in here in a decade, but you can't make those decisions for yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So look, it sounds like you want to change.
Sure. Yeah. Why not? Let's do it.
And I mean, like, I think that's the first step, is the want to change. I think it's then, figuring out why and figuring out what exactly that means, and building structure to fit that. But nobody's going to do it. It is a monumental amount of work, and I think as long as you're aware of it, because you've done it, because you've started that path, you're aware of just how much work it is. But I think the similarity with like what Mike does and the steps and all of that is really just getting through today.
The today is a big one. And, like I can do it, and we'll talk about that in maybe a second, but like the day to day is the hard part, because it's, I guess the analogy for people who have substance issues is, I don't want to go, like, I don't enjoy eating. It's not fun for me. Like, this, like eating has never been fucking fun for me. I don't go to a nice restaurant. I don't eat a fancy dinner. I don't even do that thing. Like, I don't do the fat guy thing. I just have terrible habits. I don't know. But like, if I could never eat again, I would be happy. So I don't want to, but when you wake up in the morning, you say, oh, I can't go get a styrofoam box filled with fucking chow mein, or today I can't go to Tommy's and like get a sloppy ass bag of chili cheese burgers or whatever. I don't want it, but I'm afraid that in 20 years I might want it. And I don't want to like tell myself abstinence is the way. And I know it's not, and it's not. And it's like, there are backslides and there are cheat days and there's all of that. But I think that like, this is my story for the rest of my life, which, like the rest of your life, you are going to fight this thing.
For sure.
And the rest of my life, if I choose to, I'm going to fight this thing. And there's going to be no day that you wake up and you're like, we did it. And there's no fucking George Bush with the banner behind you on the fucking battleship, right? And that's problematic. But I guess, to take it back to an analogy, it's like, if you can give a little bit of your life to this thing, the reward is definitely there. That reward, the question that I've been asking myself for my entire life now is, what am I afraid of? Like, what is on the other side of this that I'm afraid of? Is it that, this doesn't solve all my problems? Because right now, again, when we go back to that, I have that one problem. Well, it's why I don't get work. It's why I don't, have a wife or whatever. It's why I don't blah, 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 blah. And what if I'm skinny and my life still sucks, right?
But by the way, that's going to be the case.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Which is crazy.
Yeah. Because you can have one problem that is the lens you perceive every other problem through. And I completely understand that. And it's not going to solve anything. It could solve your knees. It could really, or no, not, I don't even want to say solve. It could greatly help your knees. It could greatly help your sleep. It could greatly help your feet. It could greatly help your time up running. It can do all of that, but it can't do a whole lot more.
Right. And again, like when I sit down and I'm like really honest with myself, it's like, well, why am I afraid of dealing with all those other problems? Or why do I need this fucking excuse? Like, I'm a tough kid. I'm a big boy. I've had a crazy life. So like, why am I so afraid of rejection in this way? Why am I so afraid of dealing with this in this way? And, it's kind of like, there's that line in Forrest Gump where he sends Apple a bunch of money. He's like, well, one less problem. And maybe on the other side of this, I have one less problem. And then I can face the other ones. But I do think to a certain extent that it's easier to face the one demon that I do know. It's like, I've got this one fucking giant villain that lives in my life, and I don't want to see what's on the other side of that wall. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very honest perspective to take, and big of you to even look at that. But like, is it enough?
It's not enough. No, definitely not.
Yeah.
And, I guess to loop it back to the Ozempic thing, and kind of like, it was a timely topic, but kind of like where that came from was I recently did have like a little switch flipped in my brain. And so this is a bit of, I mean, I'm going to jet through this as quick as I can, but I have this friend, met this girl, fell in love with her. It's crazy, blah, blah, blah. And you know what that's like when you're big. And it was like, you know, that's my problem. That's not her problem. So I'm going to keep that to myself and I'm going to protect her from that. And that worked for a little bit. And then it got untenable because I was pushing, you know, she started to get really freaked out. She's like, why are you pushing me away? Blah, blah, blah. Because we're really good friends. You know, she loves me as a friend, as a person. And so one day I woke up and I'm like, fuck, dude, this is a day. I got to do that. Can't hardly wait, dude. I gotta go and, you know, let her know, because it wasn't fair anymore, because it felt like I was being dishonest with her. Right. So woke up and decided I was going to go do this. And long story long, like I walked over to her house and it was like, she kept like trying to, oh man, I've got work. She's like, you know, brilliant, big job. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to hang out. And like, I was like, walked over to her house, like hanging out outside of her house for like an hour. Just like all these fucking demons in my brain are going off. And she's like, oh, let's just do it another day. Let's hang out another day. Like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, let me come up. And so I go up and I had a high-8 video camera with me. And she was like really kind of scared. She's like very, very shy. She's very skeptical. She's like, what's up with that? And so I have a friend, Morty, do you know?
Yeah.
From Morty. He sent me this video by Lightfield Lewis, who I don't know, but randomly just sent me this video of like best moments of the 90s. You're in the video. I'm sure you've seen it. And it was so rad, like seeing this guy, you know, with all his friends in the 90s. And I was like, I'm going to take this video camera. And my plan was, I'm going to go and like make a little videotape of this girl and like ask her some questions, do an interview, because I knew that I was about to change everything between us, right? Like I was like, this is the last honest moment, because she's not going to tell me to fuck off. She's not going to jump on me. It's going to be something in between, but I want this last little document. And so I recorded this video, shut off the camera, and it was great. And it was so cute. And then I tell her, and that was great too. And we had a good conversation, but like, I look down and she's like, her hands are like shaking, and we both stand up because she's got to go. She had an appointment. I'm like, dude, it's okay. Like this is a good thing. We're good. And her hands are shaking and she's like looking down. And she's like, I thought you were making a suicide tape. I thought that you were like recording, you know, videos of making a video diary and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, dude, no, of course not. No, this is great. I love you. I'd never kill myself. I love you. And she's like looking down, right? And she like looks up at me. She's like, but you are killing yourself. And like, bro, that shit fucked me up. I didn't cry when my mom died. I've had guns to my head. I've been punched in the face. Nothing, I'm Mr. Stoic. That shit fucking punched me in the guts like nothing I've ever felt in my life. And this was like, this is all like 2 months ago. And that was when I was like, I can't hurt her anymore. I can't hurt someone this close to me ever the way that I am. And like, we know that this shit's all selfish, like the one thing that's, if you're in recovery, if you're doing that thing, if you're doing this thing, it's really all about being a narcissist. Like you're just an asshole who's very self-involved, but you take it out on yourself instead of the world. And so like, it like flipped a switch in my brain and I was like, I can't do this anymore. So that all happened like just before this like little Ozempic thing, but it was I'd already kind of made the decision, I guess.
That's incredible. I mean, that's fucking sounds so painful, but I think she's probably right.
She's completely right. And I mean, she's not the first person to say that to me, of course. It was the first time it resonated. It's that hard, because it was like, again, I don't give a shit if I hurt myself. I'm hurting myself every day. But like when you hurt someone that you care that much about, you're like, this is not the way to live your life, you know?
Yeah.
So, but also like creating that scaffolding and like being, you know, I'm very, very careful, like to not make it about her, because who knows what happens there, or, you know, if we're friends forever or this or that or the other. But like, I never wanted to like put that on her back either and be like, oh, I'm doing this for you. Like, it's not about that, but it's not like I'm doing this for anybody else. And, you know, of course she does, I love you the way you are thing. But it's, it's about, I'm doing this because I don't want to hurt anyone. I'm making the change because I don't want to hurt anyone. But then what's the next step? Well, what happens when you get depressed? Like, are you going to eat your feelings? What happens when you decide, fuck the world? Are you going to say, fuck the world, and then go and like, you know, hurt yourself because of it? And in our case, you know, this is self-harm, you know, the eating and stuff.
Yeah. I think that you're a very compassionate guy. And I think that that's a decent, ideal, because if you consider that the harm you're doing is actually harmful to another, harming yourself, you know what I mean? Like, that was not the way I looked at it, but it fully works if that's the thing. If you don't want to harm the people you love,
You there?
then yeah. Can you hear me?
Sorry, you dipped for 1 second.
Sorry.
You said that's not the way I looked at it, and then it just froze up for a second.
That's not the way I looked at it, but I fully could and go like, I care about all these people. I'm unwilling to harm them. And if the harm I'm doing to myself is harming them, maybe that's the way you frame it.
Can you? Me? Sorry, I lost you for a second. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. No, it's all good. Yeah, you're back. Okay, so I said blah blah blah, and you said the way that's an interesting way to frame it.
That's an interesting way to frame it, because you're a compassionate guy, and I think if you consider that this self-harm is actually harming them, you know what I mean? Like, because I know as an addict, there was so much time I spent going like, this only affects me. Nobody else should care what I'm doing to myself. And that's a very narrow point of view to take, because we require other people and they also require us. And if we can't be actual service members to them, if we can't be of service to others, what is our point? I know you love helping people.
It's yeah, man. I mean, I'm sure you were close with AM back in the day, but I remember I was hanging out with him. We were talking about something, and we could talk about being big. And he was like, "Yeah, you know, I remember I was going to score crack one night, and I was like, on the way, and on the way, I said, but who's gonna make coffee at the meeting tomorrow? Like, if I do this, who's gonna make coffee at the meeting tomorrow?" And so, like, it's not like you have to save someone else's life. It's not like you have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, which I do. And you probably have experience with that, where it's like, I'll do anything for anybody except for myself kind of thing. But if you can say, I can't do this, or like, you know, if I do fall in love with someone, this person, a different person, am I going to be there to raise the kids? Can I go play with them at the fucking park? Can I take them to Magic Mountain and not, you know, end up on TikTok as the fat guy at Magic Mountain kind of thing? So trying to like recontextualize it, at least in that way, that I'm going to be here for people in my life, because then, you know, I don't know if you ever had this, but as a big person, I think that there's kind of a trend to be a people pleaser. Been a people pleaser my whole life, been a like take care of other people my whole life. But then it's like, that's a fucking keg, and you can fill that up and you can fill it up and you can fill it up. And then once you get to the top, you get that resentment, and like the resentment comes and just kicks you like a mule, and you're like, wait, fuck everybody, fuck them. I do everything for everybody else. And now, you know how I'm going to say fuck them? I'm going to take it out on myself. Yeah. And I'm going to hurt myself so that I can't help other people anymore. That's, you know, again, too smart for your own good.
I think all of these things are, I think it's all shit that has to be worked on, but almost in a compartmentalized way. Like, it's not all just one thing. It can be all one thing, but it's also like, I'm going to work on this, but I'm also going to work on this other stuff actively. Do you know what I mean? Like,
of course. Yeah.
So that when fucking the world drop kicks you, then you have other things to do, because working on food is kind of separate. And I think the wonderful thing about Ozempic or Wegovy or any of the new fucking crazy things they have is that it can kind of calm the waters so that you can look at those things.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of course.
When I was getting sober, methadone was a big thing, and now it's Suboxone. I don't even know if people do methadone anymore or use methadone. But when I always had this opinion, like, fucking, they're just junkies on methadone, right? And they're fucking nodding off, but they're not high. It looks awful. Fuck this drug. And then I realized, no, there's a lot to figure out with coming off drugs. It's not just like white knuckling every day. That can be part of it. But what if I'm taking methadone just to get me away from my dealer? And now I'm getting some space, and now I'm away from my dealer, and now I can think about other things because I'm able to not walk over, the 3 blocks to where I'm scoring every day. And I do think there is something about these drugs that is valid, especially for people like you and me, where it's like, fucking man, why not try it? That's all I'm saying. Like, you tried the fucking
I tried nothing. Diet. I'm all out of fucking ideas, bro.
You tried the potato diet. Why not try this one?
Well, and like, it's like methadone, and I consider it like methadone and Suboxone all the time. And, maybe it does mean I can go up Runyon more or at all. I can walk around the block easier because it is a place where, like, if you can get that jump start and if you can get that perpetual motion machine rolling, who knows what happens. But right now it's just like, there's so much fucking inertia, right? Like, there's so back to everything that you do when you're big. It's like, if you can take a little bit of that physical weight off your shoulders, I think it does open doors. I think it probably does make things easier. And in my case, if I did, which who knows, I still might, I would just have to do with an exit strategy in mind already, and with kind of like a plan in order, because, it's kind of like if you get sober, if you're a junkie or if you're an alcoholic or if you're whatever, I don't do this thing anymore, but there's also the other side of it, which is I've got 8 hours a day free. Being fucking wasted is a full-time job. Being fat is a full-time job. And so, like, when you take that out of your life, it doesn't matter how good your life is or how much better off you are without it. You now have a lot of idle time on your hands. And for like guys like us, I think that can be very scary, because then you're left alone with your thoughts. And that's the one thing I don't want to be left alone with. But knowing what you're going to do with all that newfound time, knowing I've got X blocks of my day I need to start filling, instead of eating, instead of scoring, instead of being wasted, instead of being depressed, instead of being whatever. That's another side of it. And again, back to, like, we're standing in that Home Depot parking lot looking at Egypt and deciding which way we're going to get there. It's like, well, why don't we fucking start walking? And by we, I mean me, and that's the other thing is ultimately it doesn't matter that I have, people in my life like Mike who are just like begging me to change, or like this other person, who's just wants me to be happy and healthy. And that's amazing. But, like, it doesn't matter. All the people in the world, dude, they can sit you down. They can lock you in a room until you decide. It's nobody's decision but your own.
It really, I mean, that is the truth. I think of, of every intervention I had, and there were some certainly where I'd agree to go to rehab or I'd agree to do a diet, and I would start it, but there was never a real commitment. There was never a real determination, a feeling of, or if there was, it was temporary. It would go away so quickly. You know what I mean? Like, it would fade. I do, at the end of the day, think that I think there's nothing I can say. I think you have lived through a very similar life that I lived through. And I know there's nothing I can say to change your mind about any of this. The only thing I think that I can say is Ozempic is okay. It doesn't mean you're bullshitting a program. It doesn't mean you're not tough or stoic. It, like, any baggage you have in your head about how it would actually diminish any achievement you made is bullshit. That's all I would say to you. And if Ozempic had existed when I needed to lose a lot of weight, I would have done it in a heartbeat for sure. I did the fucking diet called HGC, HCG.
Yeah.
Not HGH. It's something else, but it's a fucking hormone. And I lost weight and I ate nothing and it didn't really help. It didn't seem to help. I think it was mostly placebo, but like, I'm not opposed to any of that shit. When
and, you know, like I'm not necessarily, and that's the other thing is like I have a lot of judgment about me and about my life, but I don't judge anyone else. And like all these people who rolled in, you know, to tell me to do it, I was like, you know, Mazel Tov, like go for it. And I'm happy it works for everyone else. I think also part of it is like the resentment that back to that like sunken cost fallacy, that like gambler's fallacy thing where it's like, what happens the day that you wake up skinny and you're like, fuck, why didn't I do this 20 years ago? What the fuck? I wasted 20 years of my life. I'm fucking mad. And what happens when, you know, we have a mutual friend who's big, and I'll tell you offline who he is. But I remember I saw him at this, you know, fancy party one day, and he had just lost a bunch of weight. He's like, I'm going to tell you something that nobody in this fucking room will ever tell you. They treat you differently when you're small. He's like, everyone to your face will tell you they love you, they care about you, they love you the way they are. They treat you differently when you're small, and you're going to see it, and you're going to be a different person. And he was, you know, he was trying to give me a pep talk. But the way I heard that was like, yeah, fuck these people. Like that resentment back to like, oh, you didn't like me then? Well, how do you like me now kind of thing. And again, what good is that? Like, what good is it to kill myself slowly because I'm mad at the way that people treat me, which is how I treat myself? You know, that's crazy. It's just silly.
Yeah. No, it's a bizarre thing to dig your heels in and make them right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to
prove you all right.
Prove you right. I'll show you by doing everything you say I'm going to do.
I'm going to be the person that you fucking think I am. And then some, which is back to being punk rock, but that's cool if you're 16. Like crust punks aren't cool.
Right. We have to worry about our knees. When we were 16, we didn't have to worry about our knees ever Once. It didn't matter. Right. No, I think that's true. I've never been thin and single, so I don't know. And the only attention I really ever cared about and felt like I was lacking was from girls. And so I don't know if those people treat me differently now.
And this was a guy, and he, you know, besides the girl attention, which is what it is, but you know, in my case, evidently this girl loves me the way that I am. We'll see.
Right.
You know, not in love with me, but loves me. But it's other people. It's, you know, there's that kind of trend right now, and people like there's this weird Calvinism that people do, I think, about weight, which is you got the body that God gave you because that's the body you deserve, as though, you know, they earned having Brad Pitt abs. Like they woke up one day and earned having a good metabolism when they were fucking 16 and looking like they're in Abercrombie and Fitch catalog. And like, you know, neither of us are ever going to be in that Abercrombie catalog. Mostly also because we're not fucking 16 anymore, dude. Right. And that sucks. And I just kind of wish, you know, I had a fucked up childhood. So maybe I just wish I was 16 again. But, dudes do the same thing. Like you go out for a job and people, even if they don't say it to your face, are judging you. Oh, he's big, he must be lazy. Oh, he's big, he's not going to look the part. Like, you know, if I'm taking pictures of someone, there's some BTS, there's someone like making a video of it. Like you need to look the part on the other side of the camera. If you're Terry Richardson or if you're Randall Slavin, you know, like you need to look good on both sides of the camera. And I know it's true for women, and I'm not going to get into that whole thing, but like, people pretend it like it doesn't matter for guys, and it does. It does in such a big way in this town. So I
think that is true. I do think that there is a misconception that I think probably women as a whole, as a group, are scrutinized more than men. Course. But in people like our situation, for sure it matters. It's not, you know, again, maybe we're forgiven, maybe men are forgiven 10, 20 pounds. And women aren't forgiven 10, 20 pounds. But we're not forgiven what you and I are. that's unforgivable. And that comes with
And
all
to
the
a lot of
stigma.
people are walking around with, an almost religious aversion to it. And I don't necessarily blame them, because it's like when you see, everyone is so trained to be so kind and gentle now, especially with society where it is right now. But like, I have friends who have these kids who are like 2, 3 years old and 4 years old, I guess. And I have this great friend, and she's, very, very liberal and very progressive and everything. And I go over and I meet her kid, and her kid's like 4 and jumps, "Why are you so fat? Why are you so big?" And the look on her face, you'd have think that like the kid just dropped like the N-word, because the kid, it's, the childlike innocence knows that this is still wrong, different, but like outside of the norm. And it's so crazy that like something I've always said is like everyone in my life, like I never had like fat bullying because I was fucking cool and popular and blah, blah, blah. And I looked around at all the people in my life and I said, they are killing me with kindness. They are looking at me and telling me that it's cool, that I'm great the way I am. And they are slowly killing me with this kindness because they're not being honest with me. And who cares, again, because I wasn't being honest with myself.
Yeah, but what does honesty look like? Excuse me, because they do love you.
Sure.
They do love you. They just have, it's like anything, man. Like when I was a kid, I loved my dad. My dad smoked cigarettes. I wanted him to stop smoking. I loved him. Even, you know what I mean? The two things can be true. And then, I suck on nicotine, and my kids think that that's not good for me, and they want me to not do that. And then I don't do that, and I'm grumpy, and they say, we like you more with nicotine. So it's like they love me, but they have concerns. I think that they do love you, Stephen. I just think that there's this idea that's part of it is for sure based in reality, that being as big as you are, as big as I was, is less healthy than being smaller than we are. And so, it's like if you were smoking and somebody said, God, I really think that's not good for you. That doesn't mean they don't love you.
Of course. Yeah. And that's good to hear. And I guess maybe I just didn't ever get the tough love that I needed, even from myself. I don't know. Maybe I'm probably pretty tough on myself, but from other people, like back to that resentment, it's like, why don't you fucking people tell me the truth? And like back to that, like the little Ozempic thing, like that was people telling me the truth, maybe for the first time in a long time.
Okay. But again, I think if you were like, let's put it through the lens of smoking. Smoking cigarettes kills a shitload of people. Lung cancer
kills
kills a lot
cool
of people.
Doing it.
And for me, if I look at somebody and they're smoking cigarettes, I am envious of them because they don't fucking care. And there's something about not caring that I love. Like if you didn't care, if you were just like, motherfucker, I like to eat, I like being big, I'm comfortable with myself, I'm happy. If you want to tell me that you're worried about me, I understand because I've read the fucking medical literature, but like, I don't care. But you do.
Right. And again, that punk rock bullshit, but like if you've never driven in the car with me, but like I drive like I'm fucking crazy. I drive like I don't care. I live like I don't care. Like back in the party days, I partied like I did not care. And like I've had several guns held to my head. I've had a fucking wild life. And that's all cool and sexy. But like, straining when you get out of a chair because you're big isn't fucking cool and sexy, Right. Like it's like I didn't care, I don't care, but I do care about this. So what the fuck, man? Which is what I say to myself.
If I saw a smoker and I thought that guy is really living his life and I'm envious and God, he's probably got it great. I love what he's doing. And then I had a conversation with him and he was like, I'm every one of these. I'm like, why am I doing this? I hate myself. It's miserable, my existence. I wake up. It's the only thing I see every problem through this lens of me smoking. I would be like, motherfucker, quit smoking. What the fuck are you doing?
Right.
But again, it's not necessarily that easy. And I think that I actually think smoking is quite a bit easier to quit than hardcore drugs, and food has so many other aspects to it that makes it super complicated. But I think, like, cut your friends of some slack. They love you. You asked a question, they answered honestly. They still love you. They love you very much. They are all aware that you care.
Right. And, maybe I think it's just that time. Like, the things are building up. Like, this one thing happened with, this girl and made me reevaluate the way that my decisions affect the people that I care about. And then the other side is like letting that love in, which, psychology talk or whatever, but it's, it's real, because again, this is my fucking not welcome sign on my front yard. Like, this is my do not trespass, sign that sits on my front yard. But maybe it's time to open the door and let some fucking people in who care, and let them help me, and then, help myself.
I think that is a way to change. I really do. That's a path. It's the first fucking step, man, at the very least. And there's some aspect about it where, like, with the girl, like, really visualize what you want with her, and long term, and what that means, and what that looks like, and what that looks like if you change or if you don't change. And you know what I mean? Like, there are aspects of my life which I am only holding together because I want to spend more time with my wife. And that's the only reason. That's it.
Absolutely. And that's a good fucking reason, by the way.
It's a great reason. But like, there's for sure some worry, if God forbid anything happened, do I then give it all up? I hope not. I really hope not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and now we're back to the scaffolding or the infrastructure that, but that there's the other part of it where it's like, like, being fat is the least interesting thing about me, in my opinion. Like, I got a lot of shit going on, and maybe if I could take this one thing off the fucking table, then we could really see a lot more. And those moments when I cannot think about this, when I lose myself, like when I'm taking pictures, at a party, when I'm doing something, when I'm involved, when I'm making art, when I'm with people that I really care about, this thing is always there. But like, those moments of like excellence, or those moments when I'm like, I feel like I'm at my best, I totally forget about it. And it would be nice to also prolong that, to like, find that feeling and like, put that in a little fucking jug so I can sip on it.
Yeah.
When I'm at home, laying in bed at 4 a.m. trying to get to sleep, or when I'm, alone with my thoughts. And so again, these are like the psychological, I guess, side effects to the physical, but it takes all of it, I guess.
It takes all of it, but I do think there is something to compartmentalizing things, tackling one thing at a time, and not with the idea that one thing is going to solve everything. Being aware there's a lot more to deal with that I'm not going to do. That's one of the great things about 12 steps is like, no, I'm just on step 1. There's a lot more to do, and I'm not thinking about any of it. You know what I mean? If you try to do step 9 before you've done step 1, it's not going to work well. Right. Shit's going to fall apart. And so, like, don't tackle Everest, just get some hiking boots on. Yeah. Start with Runyon, or find the right shoes and start walking on flat ground. Like, whatever it is, there can be, and if something like Ozempic helps settle the waters, that's totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm thinking about it. I'm kind of like, I'm doing a different thing, and that I'll tell you about it later. But
okay, whatever.
Kind of like, it's not sustainable. Like, I'm doing a little bit of restricting right now, and I'm just trying to like feel for it. But having the switch flip in my head, like it was recently 2 months ago, really changed my perspective on stuff. And so it is kind of like, I think it is an important time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Steven, thank you so much.
Dude, been so real. Thank you for having me.